I'm so excited to be here. We're going to have a fun lesson tonight. We're going to do an English writing lesson. So we're going to practice this again in case you have to take an English writing test or there's some reason that you need to be able to write something. So we're going to practice writing a basic paragraph. It's not going to be a long and detailed paragraph. This is great for beginners. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me switch over to my camera so you can see. The question we're going to do today is, what is something you are afraid of and why? Now, I chose this question because October is the month of the holiday Halloween. And Halloween is known for scary things, for spooky things, for things that make you be a little bit afraid. So today let's talk about what is something you're afraid of and why. Now, as I taught you in my last class, before we even think about writing this, we need to do some thinking. So first, I need to think about what are some things that I'm afraid of. Now, I'm going to tell you there's some things in life that I am really afraid of. I'm afraid of someone close to me that I love that could possibly die, or being sick, or having some kind of... There's some things that I'm really afraid of. But let's make this kind of fun, because I don't like to think about those things. So let's think about something kind of that scares me, but is not super serious. So I used to be super afraid of snakes. Snakes scared me very, very, very much. So I thought about writing about that, but I was having trouble with writing that and coming up with ideas because I'm really not that afraid of snakes anymore. They're not my favorite thing to find where I don't want to find them, but I can't say snakes are something I'm really afraid of. Another thing that I really not happy about finding are spiders. So I thought maybe we could write about spiders today. So I don't know if you were here last time. I'm going to go ahead and write spiders on my page. And last time, I told you I like to make little drawings. So I'm going to draw a little spider here. Just to make it a little more fun. So why am I drawing? Number one, I'm not very good at drawing. So it's not because I want to show off my artist skills. I'm not a very good artist. Why I like to draw is that gives me some access to the creative part of my brain. We have our logical thinking brain and we have a creative brain. So if you can add a little drawing in there, it helps you kick into that creative part of your brain. I don't know how much different it makes, but it also makes the paper a whole lot more fun. And I get to laugh at myself a little bit about my silly drawings. So what are some things? Let's pretend for a minute that we're all scared of spiders. What are some things about spiders that you don't like? I'd love to hear from you in the chat. I'd love to see your ideas. What are some things about spiders that you don't like? Well, on kind of a serious note, some spiders are poisonous. So I'm going to put that up here. Poison. And I think that's the black widow spider. So that's the one that's black on the body, but it has a red symbol on it. kind of like an hourglass. Again, I'm not the best artist, so just have fun with it. So some spiders are poisonous, and that scares me because I don't want to be bit by a poisonous spider and get sick. I've seen some really yucky pictures of people that have been bit by spiders, and that makes me worry. That's probably my biggest problem with spiders, because I know the black widow is poisonous, but I really don't know much more about spiders. I don't know how to tell if a spider is poisonous. With snakes, there's some things that you can see and you know if it's a poisonous snake. But I don't think those same things go with spiders. Does anyone else have something that you don't like about spiders? I'd love to see it if you can put it in the chat. If not, we'll go with my ideas for now. I see that we've got several people on. I'm so glad you found us. I hope this is helpful. Does anyone else have something that you don't like about spiders? I'm going to tell you another thing I don't like about spiders is they're sneaky. And I don't really know. I'm going to put, some of them are small. There's not really a good word for sneaky in Spanish. It's when they do things to surprise you. They're a little bit quiet. You don't hear spiders. They're small, and to me, they always seem to be where I don't want them. So I'm going to put that they're sneaky. They can scare you. They'll be someplace where you don't expect them to be. Let me see. Anyone else have anything about spiders that you don't like? I'll tell you another thing I don't like about spiders is I'm not really a fan of their webs. Have you ever walked into a spider web? I hate the feeling of a spider web in my face. That just creeps me out because I know that someplace there's probably a spider. The webs are sticky. Also about the web, I can't see them. Can't see. Spiders make me have to clean the house. It's not really a reason to be afraid of them, but if you don't clean your house, you might get spider webs. Any other ideas? Something you don't like about spiders or that makes you scared? I think another thing is they're kind of ugly. Now, I think a spider web, if you can get the picture in the sun when there's dew on it, I think a spider web can be beautiful. But spiders themselves are pretty ugly. They have little hairs. They have lots of legs. I'm going to write that down just so I think about it. Hairs, legs. And I've seen close-up pictures where they have lots of eyes. Spiders to me are just not very pretty animals. So they kind of make... I kind of don't think they're very pretty animals. Okay. And you know, I think one of the biggest reasons, and I think I really want to make sure to write about this, is I don't know much about them. Maybe if I learned more about spiders, they wouldn't be so scary to me. But they seem kind of like a mysterious, sneaky animal that seems to always show up when I don't want them. So, I do know they eat flies. I do like that idea because I don't like flies either. That's my little fly. Doesn't look much like a fly, but that's a fly. They do eat flies, but that's kind of something I like about spiders. So that's not going to be good about if I'm writing about something that I'm afraid of. So we've got some good ideas here. Now that I've got some ideas, remember we talked about last week, when we're writing kind of a sandwich. We're going to have at least 5 sentences in our paragraph. And we're going to have our introduction and our conclusion, which is like the bread of our sandwich. They're going to be very much the same. There's not going to be a lot of difference between our introduction and conclusion. And they kind of hold our paragraph, our sandwich, together. The things that make our sandwich interesting are the details, the things that we put on our sandwich. And we're going to put at least 3 things that we're going to talk about. So if we have an introduction, 3 details, and a conclusion, that means we should have 5 sentences. Okay, so let's look at this and let me think about which ones I want to use. I've already said I really don't think we need to use eat flies because that's kind of something that is good about spiders. I like the fact that they eat flies, and since we're talking about what is something you're afraid of and why, that's not a good reason to be afraid of them. Okay? Well, I think we need to put poison. I think that's a really good reason to be afraid of a spider. I think that's a very good reason to be afraid of a snake. You don't want to be around poisonous animals. So I think we definitely want to include that. I think we do want to include that. I think we're going to include that they're small and sneaky and they show up in places where I really don't want them. And it's not really nice to call something ugly, even though I do think that's still legitimate for spiders. I think I can have a better reason. I think we'll talk about the spider web because that's something very unique about spiders. And I really like this idea because I think that if I knew more about them or I studied spiders, I might not be as afraid of them. So, but I've got an idea that might be a good idea for our conclusion. Maybe I can work that in as part of our conclusion. So, I think that's enough that we can go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and get some ideas for our introduction. Okay, so our introduction, we want to make sure that we answer the question. The why is pretty much going to be answered in our details. But this what is something you're afraid of, that needs to be in our first sentence. So, we could very simply say, one thing I'm afraid of is spiders. So that could work. That's a very simple first sentence. What else could we talk about? What's another way that we could write that? Does anyone else have an idea? We could ask a question. What kind of question could I ask? Maybe, isn't everyone afraid of spiders? That's probably not the best sentence to use. We could change the word afraid around and use the word fear. So what if I said one of my fears is spiders. Those are some okay sentences. I think I'm okay with those. Let's start thinking about our conclusion. So our conclusion kind of sums it up. And remember, I like that idea of I might be afraid of them because I don't know much about them. So that might be some way to work into our conclusion. I can always use my conclusion. I can always do something simple like this or these are the reasons why I'm afraid of spiders. Now, is that the best conclusion? Probably not, but you could use a sentence like this, especially if you're in a time crunch or you just can't think of anything else. This would be semi-acceptable. It would be a very simple answer, but it could work. Thinking for my conclusion, maybe I could say, maybe my fear of spiders would decrease if I knew more about them. I like that conclusion because it kind of ends on a positive note. Talking about things that we're afraid of is kind of negative, which is why I said we're going to do a fear that's not a huge, horrible fear, something that really keeps us awake at night. I kind of like that sentence. We could also end it with a question. We can say, are you afraid of spiders too? Those are some pretty good ideas. Let me write up here conclusion, because I have that other paper with the introduction. Let's write that. Intro. I'm going to shorten it. And we're going to come back to those. Remember, we want to do this in steps so that we can think things through. So, the 3 reasons we were going to talk about was poison. They might be poisonous. The sticky spider webs that I can't see, and the fact that they're small and sneaky. So I don't know which order I want to put these in yet. So let's just start with poison, since I have that up at the top of my page. Oh, it decided to change. Hi there. Let me go ahead and get back so that you can read this. That makes it, oops. That makes it a little bit bigger for you, I think. Okay, so we're going to talk about poison on this one. So this is our first detail. I don't know if this is going to be our first detail in what we're writing, but it's our first detail that we're talking about now. So we could just simply say, some spiders are poisonous. Okay. Ooh, how about a spider's poison can be very harmful. Can we think of something else? I think those are okay. Let's go ahead and make a line here. And our next one that we were going to talk about was the web. I'm going to say what I was talking about when I was thinking about it. It's hard to see a spider web. Oh, I also said I hate walking into spider webs. So, hate is a very strong word. You probably don't want to use it often in your writing, but I think you're safe to use it when you're talking about walking into spider webs. We're not talking, I think everyone would agree. I don't think there's anyone on the planet that enjoys walking their face into a spider web. Okay, that's not too bad. Let's go ahead and leave that. And then the last one that we were going to talk about was that they're small and sneaky. Now, are spiders really sneaky, or is that just what I think about them? It's probably really just my opinion. So I think instead of saying spiders are sneaky, I'll say spiders seem sneaky. I feel like they're just everywhere. Well, spiders show up where you least expect them. I kind of like that one because that gives you the idea of sneaky without using the word sneaky. Ooh, what if I said spiders seem to show up where you least expect them? Ooh, I like that sentence. I'm going to call that one a winner. Okay? I think actually that would be probably... That might actually be a really good sentence to start with after our introduction. So let's go back and look at our introduction. And Which one of these sentences do you like better? One thing I'm afraid of is spiders. Isn't everyone afraid of spiders? Or one of my fears is spiders. I'm not really liking this question. That doesn't seem very professional because I know that not everyone is afraid of spiders. There's people that actually have spiders as pets. So I'm thinking that's probably not my best choice. If you like it and you'd like to use it on write your own paragraph, please feel free. I think the one that I like is this first one. So let's go ahead and start with that. So I've got my paper here so that I can see it. Now when I write a paragraph, we have to indent a little from the sign. And I'm going to write big so that you can see it. So one thing I'm afraid of is spiders. Okay, so I'm done with this paper about my introduction. Okay, and now we're going to move on to our details. I really liked this sentence. Spiders seem to show up where you least expect them. I like to use the word sneaky, but ooh, I could even say sneaky spiders seem to show up where you least expect them. Let's do that because that includes both of them. So, sneaky spiders. Oh, I don't quite have room for the next word, so I'll have to skip it. Seem to show up where you least expect them. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now let's look because we have the poison or the web. Should we talk about the poisonous spiders or should we talk about the web next? I'm thinking maybe we should talk about the web because we also talked about those are things that we have a hard time seeing and we don't like walking into them. And then the poison the web would be a good transition from talking about them being sneaky to poisonous. So it's hard to see a spider web, or I hate walking into spider webs. I'm not really liking either of those. I want to talk about walking into them and that it's hard to see them. So, I have two choices. I can choose one of these. I can figure out a way to put them together. Or, I can let this paragraph have 4 sentences. Any one of those is acceptable. So, is there a way that I could combine those sentences? I could do a comma and I hate walking into them. And I'd have to change that to spider webs. Okay, we can do that. Let's combine them. So it's hard to see. Remember, we've got to change a spider web to spider webs so that we can make this sentence flow. It's hard to see spider webs and I hate walking into them. Okay, I like that sentence. Okay, now let's go back up to the poisonous part. We can just say some spiders are poisonous, which actually would be okay because we just had a really long sentence, so it wouldn't hurt to have a short sentence. But I think I like the second one. A spider's poison can be very harmful. I think that's a better option. So, a spider's poison can be very harmful. Okay, so far so good. I'm liking it. And we already had picked out which concluding sentence we wanted to use. So let's go ahead and transfer that over. Maybe my fear of spiders would decrease if I knew more about them. Okay, I'm more or less happy about that. Let's see, let's read our question again. What is something you are afraid of and why? So I think we've done that. We're talking about spiders and we're giving our reasons why. So I think that's great. I think we've accomplished our purpose. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to read this to myself. So let's go ahead and read this and see what we think. One thing I'm afraid of is spiders. Sneaky spiders seem to show up where you least expect them. You know, I really like that we have all those S sounds in here. That's called alliteration, when you have more than one of the same sound at the beginning of the words. Sneaky spiders seem to show up. Oh, we even had one more. It's hard to see spider webs, and I hate walking into them. A spider's poison can be very harmful. Maybe my fear of spiders would decrease if I knew more about them. Okay, that sounds reasonable. Now, is this the absolute best that I could do? Probably not. But I think it's okay. If I were writing this for a test, I probably wouldn't turn this one in. Maybe it would be okay. But it's some place to start. Now, I talked last week a little bit about what I like to do for editing. So the first thing I do when I edit is I read it to myself. I find a lot of errors just reading something back to myself. The other thing that I do is I'll put this aside for a while, for like a week or so, and then I'll come back to it, read it again, and see if I need to make any changes. Now, you can't do that if you're taking a test. But if you're writing a paper for a teacher, you could at least maybe walk away, get a drink of water, go to the restroom, and then come back to it. Or you could write one of your other questions and then come back to it. So I like to give myself a little space from it, and then I come back and work on the edits. So this one's okay. Not too bad. We'll come back and look at it, and we need to look at transition words. We need to look at, there's a lot of things that we could look at to make it better. But is this a good start? It's not a bad start. We have a couple complex questions or a couple of complex sentences. We have some, I think we've used some pretty good vocabulary in there. I know some of this vocabulary might be a little bit difficult for you, but make sure you're looking up any words that you don't know. So I think that's not too bad. So I hope this has helped. I have a website, mybilinguallife.org, and we have classes there. There are going to be lots of free classes, which I'm posting here. And here it will be up here on YouTube. You can rewatch this if you didn't get to watch the whole thing. And I will be redoing it again later on TikTok as well. But in our group, there's also a membership where we have conversation classes and reading classes. So if you're interested in some of these other classes, make sure to look and check it out. Si tienen cualquier pregunta, aquí estoy. Me pueden hablar en inglés, en español. Solamente trato de hacer la clase casi todo en inglés para que tengan más práctica. I'm so glad you came. I hope this has been helpful, and we'll do another next week. Nos vemos. See you soon.